I had booked an Airbnb for 3 days. It was a small place in the woods, but not really secluded. It was in a neighborhood, just with lots of forest and land in between the houses. This was my first time ever using Airbnb though, and I didn't know too much about the process or what to expect. When I pulled up to the address around 5 p.m., I definitely wasn't expecting the place to be right next to another house, like literally about 10 feet apart. It was clear the rental was some sort of secondary home on the same driveway as the main house. I definitely was hoping for something a little bit more private, but I was sure it would probably not be as bad as I was thinking. I parked close to the Airbnb and got in, then started to move my things from my car into the house. As I did, an older man came out of the main house and walked right up to my car. He introduced himself as Evan, the host of the rental. This guy was in his 50s, and the best way to describe him was just as a large man, tall and big, with a thick gray beard. He gave me a strange feeling from the start though, just that something wasn't quite right about this guy. He didn't say anything concerning, but he kept calling me buddy, which was a little weird. But after a couple minutes, he left me to enjoy the Airbnb, and so I hoped that would be my one and only interaction with him during my stay. And overall, I thought he was weird, but harmless. I got everything in and relaxed on the couch for a while, then made a very late dinner. I think I started cooking around 8:30. On my way to the Airbnb, I had picked up a ribeye steak from the store, thinking it'd be cool to cook on my first night there, not realizing how exhausted I'd actually be. I was starving though, so I fried it up quickly in a pan and ate it without any sides. After that, I took an early shower and went to bed, passing out within a couple of minutes. I didn't have anything planned for the day, aside from going back into town to get some groceries. After making coffee and waking up a little, I figured I might as well get that over with early so I could relax the rest of the day. I headed out and picked up some drinks and food for the next couple of days, and got back to the rental about an hour later. Right when I pulled up, Evan came walking out of his house. He waved at me, and I thought that was it. But when I looked up again, he was approaching my car. I got out and started grabbing the groceries, hoping he was just heading down to the mailbox or something. But when I turned around, he was standing right over me. "How was your first night? Did everything go well?" I said, "Yeah, everything was great." He smiled and nodded. "How'd the steak turn out last night? Hopefully my kitchen had everything you needed." I was taken aback for a moment. How the hell did he know what I made for dinner last night? I think my face showed my shock, and I stuttered a couple times, when the man spoke again. "The steak? You told me yesterday you picked one up for dinner." "Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was good, thanks." He smiled again and nodded, then started to walk back to his house. I then hurried and went back inside. Did I really tell him that I brought a steak yesterday? I hardly remembered our short conversation, as I was more focused on the weird feeling I had about him. But it seemed really unlikely that I just randomly brought up what I was going to make for dinner. And seeing as he went right back to his house afterward, it was also strange he came out just to talk to me again, and for no other reason. The uneasy feelings about him only got worse, but I convinced myself that I had to have mentioned the steak thing and just didn't remember, and that maybe Airbnb hosts talk to their customers a lot. I had no way of knowing because this was my first time. Over the next few hours, I checked out the windows, just to make sure that Evan guy wasn't being that weird. I never saw him, which I guess gave me a little bit of relief. I went on with the rest of my day, and it turned out to be relaxing, with nothing else happening. I made dinner, watched TV, and went to bed. However, in the night, I woke up. I didn't remember hearing anything or having any reason for waking up, but I didn't feel good. I felt uncomfortable. I sat up, and after a minute, I felt off enough to get up and walk around the house. I slowly went through checking the rooms and eventually got to the front door. It was unlocked. I opened it and looked outside. It was quiet and no one was out there, but I could see across the yard that Evan's house had a light on, though the rest of the house was dark. I closed and locked it. Honestly, I don't really know how in the moment I didn't think about why the door was unlocked. Maybe I was too tired or just assumed I'd forgotten to lock it, but at the time, it wasn't a significant thing to me. I just checked the house to make sure I was alone and nothing else was off, and then I got back in bed and slept until 5 in the morning. The sun hadn't come up yet, but I was wide awake, as it wasn't until I had woken up that I really thought about everything. That feeling of being watched was looming over me, and every strange thing that had happened since getting to that rental was adding up in my head. Was I being watched? I got dressed and started walking through the house again, but more intently than I had in the middle of the night. I was looking for anything off, and after just a couple minutes of looking, I found something. In the kitchen, one of the outlets had a black charging brick plugged into it. Now, initially when I saw it the day I'd arrived, I didn't even think anything of it. It even had a charging cable coming out of it, so I thought it was just a complimentary charger. But when I looked closer, there was a small dot on the front. I couldn't tell for sure, but it looked like a lens to a mini hidden camera. I felt my face get pale as I quickly unplugged it. I then ran around the house, seeing nearly every room had one of these plugged into an outlet, even the bedroom. And then I was interrupted. Hello? Hey, you mind opening the door for a minute? Just need to check a couple things. Hello? Yeah, I know you're in there. Can you open the door? Evan was calling out from the front door, coincidentally just a few minutes after I'd found the cameras. His knocks were quick and heavy, like he was panicking. I immediately started packing up everything in my room. I needed to leave right now. As I was packing, he continued calling out and hitting the door, until it suddenly got very quiet, enough for me to feel something off. I stopped moving and listened. He very quietly unlocked and opened the front door. I slammed the bedroom door shut, grabbed my suitcase, and left out the window. I heard the bedroom door open as I hit the ground, and I made a dead sprint for my car. I got in and fled the house. I spent the day at a hotel an hour away from the Airbnb. I called friends and family, telling them what had happened, and after consulting with them, I decided to call the cops. It did not go how I expected, though. They went to his house to question him, and he let them look around, but all the charging bricks I'd mentioned were gone, and Evan answered none of their questions with honesty, saying everything I said had not happened. And ultimately, it was my word against his, and nothing came of it. I imagine after he saw me notice the cameras, Evan likely came over to the rental with horrible intentions to prevent me from telling anyone. Disturbingly, that pretty much proves that he was actively monitoring and watching me through the cameras. I still feel incredibly uneasy thinking about being in that house and what could have happened. I noticed not long after, though, he removed his rental from Airbnb, and as of today, years later, I still don't see it on there.